My most humble pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Lord. Sai Ram to all. After my son was born and we were living in Kerala, we tried many times to bring my baby for Bhagavan's blessings and to come and at least have a darshan of Bhagavan. Every time we planned, we booked our tickets, somehow or the other, it never happened. Either my baby would fall ill or I could not get leave from the bank. Something or the other always happened. And for 5 long years, we could not come even one time to Puttaparthi. At this time, my son was almost 5 years old, and we had put him into a nursery school where he had started to learn his ABCs. This was in the month of May when I had a dream of Swami, and he said, "What are you waiting for? Come to Puttaparthi and bring your son. Put him in my school." So I was not aware that Swami had started a primary school. I only knew about Dandapur campus and the Vrindavan college. So when I woke up, I told my husband that I had a dream like this. So we made the plan and everything fell into place. We were able to come to Puttaparthi. This was in the month of June. And we came to know that the admissions were going to start for the first standard. In Swami's primary school, the classes started from the 1st to the 10th, and the admissions were only for the first class, where about 50 to 60 students were taken. This was a completely residential school. And so we took in the application form and filled it up and submitted it. And the next day was the entrance exam. My son did not know much at all because he had just started his schooling in Kerala. So the next day, all the parents came with their little tots, and the children were ushered into a large hall to write their entrance exam. This was almost like an IAS exam because the test was for 2 to 3 hours. They had to write some answers, and then they would be asked some questions, and so on and so forth. So we were waiting outside, all the parents were outside, and the children went inside to write the test. In about half an hour, Kanak came out running, and I asked him, "What happened? Didn't you write the test?" He said, "Oh, yeah, I did whatever I knew, and that's it." And he had a few biscuits in his hands. I was immediately upset because I knew this fellow was not going to get the seat in the school. I'm sure he had not done anything. All the rest of the children were still inside. Later on, I came to know that the teachers, most of them were my juniors in Anandapur College, and Swami had taken them all in to be teachers in this primary school when it was newly opened in 1980. So one of my friends, Sukanya, she told me that he does not know anything, Didi. We asked him and he said apple and a few words. And then the principal, Madam Munni Didi, asked whether he knew some bhajans, and he sang the Ganesh. And then he did Sutoma prayer. And then he turned and asked her, "Why you're keeping little children like this? Don't you have any biscuits and chocolates for us?" She burst out laughing and she went inside and got some biscuits and chocolates and gave it to him. And this fellow just came running out of the hall. So we went back to the ashram. I was so upset. I knew, there was no chance this fellow was going to get through. And I was like, I really wanted Swami to take him just now into his school. He had asked us to come, right? My husband told me, "Why are you so upset? Stop crying. He's only 5 years old. He still has a chance. We can prepare him this year and make him write the entrance exam next year," because the age group was from 5.5 to 6.5. Since he was just 5, we still had another chance to try our luck for the next year. But I wouldn't give in. I kept on mourning and crying and praying to Swami and all that. Then 2-3 days later, the results were announced, and they had put up this big list in front of the South Indian canteen. I had no hope at all because what chance was there when he did not even write the test? In those days, for many years, once the primary school was opened, the list of the candidates who had passed in the exams would be taken to Swami, and then Swami would go through it and he would tick mark the candidates to be given admission. So this was the procedure in those days. I was only aware of it later on. So I slowly went up to see the list. All the parents were milling around there. And to my utter surprise, his name was sixth on the list. There was absolutely no chance that he would be on that list at all. But Bhagavan, in his infinite mercy, had chosen my son. So then all the parents were called to the primary school and given instructions about all the things to be packed and brought for the children, because it was a residential school, clothes and everything had to be provided. So we went and got everything ready, and in a couple of days the children were all admitted, and then they were to stay in the hostel from then on. On that day when we left the children, it was pandemonium, all the small kids crying and howling to leave their parents. And we were told that on the next Thursday, the children would be brought for darshan, for Bhagavan to see them and bless all the little ones. And we were given strict instructions that we were not to be seen anywhere near the children, because they would immediately start bawling and crying and wanting to come near us. So on Thursday morning, the children were all brought for Swami's darshan, and they were all lined up, and the teachers were sitting near the crying ones and all that. So the parents, we were sitting in the opposite darshan lines, and we could see them all sitting there. And when Swami came down for darshan, he straight went up to the children and he started asking them their names and patting them and all that. Kanak was seated there in a very bright red Baba suit, very visible to me, So Swami went up to him and pulled his cheeks. This was a very common phenomena in his first few years in the primary school. Swami would always pinch his cheeks. And Swami asked, "Who is this little fellow?" And one of the teachers who had studied with me in Anandapur, she told Swami, "This is Jayashree's son." And then Swami said, "Jayashree? Which Jayashree?" As though he didn't know, And then he said, that Dundapota, Kerala girl. And Swami smiled and gave 2 chocolates to Kanak. He put it inside his pocket. And then Swami walked around and spoke to some of the little children. Some of them were bawling, of course. This was the first darshan and first interaction with my son Kanak. So he was put in the hostel, and we decided to stay there for a few days more. To be continued. I hope you like my stories with Bhagavan. Please share, like, and tell other Sai devotees. Om Shri Sai Ram. Bhagavan bless you all.